Hello wonderful person, this is Philip and this is a video response to a comment that Pete ABC1 left on my video about remineralizing your tooth enamel. I want to mention the second thing Pete said first because it's something that I can't really talk about because I haven't had any personal experience with it. There is a new toothpaste now called Biomin. And I believe, Pete, you're correct, it is from Britain. I have heard about it before, but frankly, I was very busy at that time, so I just forgot. And I never got around to trying it out. But once I have some experiences with it, I will report back as to what I personally feel it has done for my teeth. But the other thing you're very interested in is the difference between MK-4 and MK-7. This is also something that I have tried to look into because there is some information out there and it almost seems like nobody really knows yet. But as you correctly stated, the big difference and the big advantage that MK-7 seems to have over MK-4 is that it has a longer biological half-life, that it stays in your blood longer. Now, this is understandably something that medical researchers find very attractive because they try to make everything as simple as possible. So they try to have a study where, for the study, the test subjects, in other words, the people that are doing that are getting the vitamin K, they should have as steady and as stable as possible a blood level of vitamin K2. So then the doctors think, wow, this MK7 is really great. We just give it to them once a day and their blood levels will stay fairly constant throughout the day and we don't have to worry about it. But if we want to keep their blood levels constant by using MK4, we have to give it to them several times a day. So that's more complicated. Why even bother? And I believe that creates a bias in their minds where they gravitate more toward the MK7 just because it's easier. But as Pete correctly stated, how long a particular version of vitamin K2 stays in my bloodstream really doesn't matter to me. I don't care how long it stays in my blood. What I want is the result of having strong teeth, having strong bones, having clean arteries so I don't get heart attacks or strokes, not getting cancer. Those are the results I'm looking for, not some arbitrary measure of how long a specific substance stays in my blood after I eat it. And specifically, when we're talking about teeth and remineralization, the way this works, as far as science knows, is not that the vitamin K2 goes into your teeth and does something there. No, the vitamin K2 activates a couple of different proteins that are already present in your body. They're just not active. Most of those proteins is just not active in the human body, which could be interpreted as most people are vitamin K2 deficient. So when you get vitamin K2 in your body, it activates those proteins. And I don't know if anyone has ever measured this. I don't think they have. But we don't really know how long those proteins then stay activated. So what I'm trying to get at is, if I take vitamin K2 in the form of MK4, and then 2 hours later it's gone from my blood, well, what if the reason it's gone from my blood is that it has been put to use? It has performed the action of, for example, activating those proteins, which will then end up carrying the calcium out of my arteries and into my enamel. We don't know how long those proteins are active. They might stay activated for days after the brief burst of vitamin K2, even if it is, or especially if it is MK4, activates them. Now, Pete mentions that he takes I don't have it in front of me now, but I think he gave a range that was around 120 to 150 micrograms of MK-7 2 to 3 times a day. So that's a fairly high dose of vitamin K2, MK-7, and he notices that that seems to increase his saliva production. Honestly, I have never paid attention to my saliva production other than when I eat way too much sugar, then my mouth becomes dry. So I can't really comment on that. But I do have experience with taking, just like you, over 100 micrograms a day, and sometimes spaced out throughout the day, vitamin K2, MK-7, and not getting as good of results as I get now by taking 3 to 4 milligrams of MK-4 just once a day in the afternoon. That really leaves my teeth smoother longer. So that is one of the reasons why I personally now take MK-4, and I no longer even take MK-7, other than it's contained in one particular multivitamin that I take. A little bit of it is contained in there. But I really rely more on MK-4, especially when it comes to my dental health. The other reason why I think MK-4 is probably underrated is very simply that the human body does produce some vitamin K2 from K1, and all the vitamin K2 that is naturally produced in the human body is actually MK-4. So MK-7 is not something that the human body naturally produces. Of course, that by itself doesn't mean all that much, but I don't think it hurts to have more of a substance that the body produces anyway. It just doesn't seem to produce enough of it. By the way, this is also, in my opinion, the true reason why women are at a greater risk of osteoporosis than men. And that's very simply because one of the biggest producing organs of vitamin K2 in the human body is actually the testicles. So you don't have to believe in some weird story where you'd really have to kind of, it almost sounds unreasonable to think that, because a woman lactated for a few months 40 years ago, she lost some calcium, and now, over 40 years of eating calcium, probably even in fortified foods and lots of vegetables, and who knows how much calcium the woman was taking, in 40 years of that, the body has just not been able to replenish that calcium, so she still gets osteoporosis. I just don't think that's a reasonable explanation. I'm also not sure I want to have a complicated explanation of different kinds of hormones having really esoteric effects. I think it's probably a much more reasonable explanation now that we already know that vitamin K2, if supplemented orally, decreases the risk of osteoporosis, and we already know that the testes make vitamin K2. Well, I think that is sort of the simplest and most obvious answer as to why women have a higher risk of osteoporosis. Anyway, thanks for the input and have a good day.